Okay, well, welcome. I'm so excited to be here. We had a little wonky start. We tried to go live on Facebook, but we're going to record this interview instead, so we can get it out to everybody in a really clear way. So I am Linda Leland, co-founder of And Then She Shines, and the creator of Food Rules, Diets, and Love, and the 30-day Eat Like You Love Yourself challenge, and 5 days to make peace with food. And Then She Shines is a worldwide community of support to empower women. We cover so many different topics, but basically what we do is we help women move away from self-judgment. Usually that is the greatest thing that keeps us stuck. When we move away from self-judgment, we can move into full self-expression. And as a nutritionist, I've done a lot of work with helping people heal their relationships with food. And the greatest thing that keeps us stuck is our own limiting beliefs about ourselves, which really what create us to have an unhealthy relationship with food. And then I met this beauty who is basically doing the same thing. She is a healer when it comes to healing your relationship with food. She really she sees the big picture. I'm finding that just being a nutritionist isn't cutting it anymore. There's emotional healing that has to be done. There's spiritual healing that has to be done. Yeah. So Rachel is the founder of Health Net Girl and has a lot of programs as well. And we got together on different Facebook groups, and I heard her message. I heard her advice to some of the same people that we are here to help. And I was so blown away. I said, we have got to join forces.
Yes.
Work together. I want to help empower women and heal women from feeling so stuck around, their unhealthy relationships with food. So, we talked a little bit, and I would really love to hear more about you. But today you're going to talk about how your journey looked like from back to loving your body and the huge difference that it's made in your life, your health, and everything.
Yeah. So I am so thrilled to be here. I'm so excited. And I'm so excited to have run into you and to, do this together. And I really think that I found a twin soul sister.
Absolutely.
When I see when I see what you do, I'm like, you took the words out of my mouth. You took the thoughts out of my head, so I'm so excited to see somebody whose work I so resonate with, and that we can come together and bring this message of healing to women, so it's my passion, I've been working with women for over 35 years. It started when my parents opened a health food store when I was a teenager, and I started working there and started counseling people about food and health, and really like this missing piece of our, emotional healing and spiritual healing is something that I see big time in the health field. So I'm so glad that you're here and I'm here and that we're doing this work together. So I'm so thrilled to be here.
I didn't know that you started I started in the real serious, I think we go from being completely unconscious around food, some of us, to overly conscious. We dive into that health paradigm so deeply, but I think that's so good because I thought I knew everything. I was, in every sense of the word, and you too, an expert in health and nutrition, but I wasn't able to help anybody.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I wasn't able to help myself.
Right. Me either.
I had my own struggles. Well, so absolutely.
Without these other pieces, they're so huge. And I just am honored and so proud of you and honored to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. So today I'm here, like you said, to just tell my own story, of how things unfolded for me. And I would like to start my story with a memory that I have when I was a little girl. And I think I was around 4 years old. And I remember this memory so vividly. I was in my mother's bedroom, and in her closet, she had a door that opened that had a full-length mirror. And I don't remember if I used to dress up in a clothes, but I don't remember if I played dress up or not. What I really remember is looking at myself in the mirror and how I felt. So I just remember looking at myself, and I remember like looking at my face and looking at my nose and turning around and twirling and looking at my body from every angle and every side. And I just remembered the feeling of this pure joy and delight in my body. I liked everything I saw. I was like so delighted to be me, to be my physical self. And I think one of the reasons that this memory is so vivid is because I have not felt that way since. Like even though I'm much closer to it now than I used to be, I am still going towards that 4-year-old girl, and it's been a journey. So I think that, like we are born delighted with our physical selves. Like if you look at, like little babies and little girls and little boys, like they don't think, like I don't like my thighs. They don't think I don't like my hair color. Like they don't think that. They have like pure delight in who they are physically. And then things happened, and it's just like, for me it feels like, another brick in the wall, another brick in the wall, another brick in the wall that separates you from your love to your body. So that's where my story begins. That's like my vivid early memory of being in this pure body delight. And then, like I think, sometimes I work with women that really had a big traumatic experience that made them, like separate from their body. If it could be like, physical abuse or sexual abuse. But I think for a lot of us, myself included, it's not like one big thing. It's the everyday things, and it's the everyday messages that we get. Mm-hmm. So today I want to share just a few of them, because I'm sure that everybody have their own version of them. Like they have a particular flavor of me growing up in my family, in my religion, in my culture, but everybody have their own version of it. So one of the things that I remember was that I had a cousin who was my best friend, and we were, we were always together. And I come from a family of, people of color, and she was much lighter. Like her eyes were lighter, and her hair was lighter, and the skin tone was lighter. So I just remember how everybody in the family always talked about how beautiful she is nonstop, like in the extended family, every time we were together, and nobody said anything about me. So I just remember in the beginning when it started happening, I just remember it felt strange. Like, like I knew she was beautiful. I knew I was beautiful. I didn't understand why they're oohing and eyeing over her and not over me. So that was, like it's one thing that happened, and it happened over and over again throughout my whole childhood with that particular cousin. Another thing that happened, and that's something that, like it's a personal experience in my religion. Actually, two stories that are a personal experience in my religion. One is that when I was very little, my father used to take me with him to synagogue. I grew up in Israel, and I'm Jewish. I come from a Jewish religious family. And I just loved it there because that was the place where my father was at his most joyful, so I just loved being with my dad there and experience the joy that he had of being in that environment. And I used to love to hear him sing and pray, and he used to dance with me. But then when I got into a certain age, pretty much when you move from being a toddler to being a little girl, girls are not allowed in Orthodox synagogues anymore. And he stopped taking me. And for me, that was like a huge, huge, deep hurt. And I just felt like, and he continued to go with my brothers. So there was something for me that was like about me being a girl that I was not allowed in that place anymore. And something similar that happened is I was in an all-girl religious schools when we used to like do a lot of ritual singing. And the girls were always taught to low down their voices, that men should not hear our voices singing, and that you had to sing quietly and loudly because our voices could lead men into sinful thoughts. That was the things I was said. So another memory that I have, and that would be the last one. Like I can tell you like 100 stories, but I'm going to stop with that because I know we all have our own versions of it. Is I remember just being with my mother and her friends, her girlfriends, you know, like from the neighborhood, and they would all sit and talk. And they would talk about women who took care of themselves. Like if there would be a woman who did something for herself, they would talk about them like, look at that woman taking care of herself. And it was not said in a loving way. It was said in a critical way, as if, you know, like being self-sacrificing was glorified, you know, and taking care of yourself was considered to be something bad. So all those things happen in my personal life. And I think that when we're little, we don't understand that what's happening is wrong. We think there's something wrong with us. So instead of me seeing, you know, like the internalized racism in my family was wrong, I thought my hair color was wrong, my skin color is wrong. Instead of saying the fact that my father stopped taking me to synagogue and prefer, you know, like there's a preference for boys over girls, that's wrong. I thought there's something wrong with my female self, you know. So we tend to internalize all those things that happen, and we don't see that what's coming at us is wrong. We think that we are wrong, and that's why it's happening. So those are a few of my personal stories, and I'm sure you have yours, and I'm sure everybody else have theirs, of all those things happen. But I think beyond the personal stories that we all have, there's also what's happening in our culture, you know, like that. I think women, like, and then we get this message since we are born, we get this message that, you know, like we need to feel bad about ourselves because there are huge industries that would fall if we didn't, you know, like the diet industry and the health industry and the fashion industry and the beauty industry and the cosmetic industry, you know, like all those industries kind of feed off of us feeling bad. And if we didn't, if we were really like in that 4-year-old joy, they would look very, I don't know if they would exist or not, but they would look very different and they would operate very differently. So we all get those messages. We all get this misinformation about ourselves, and we all get those lies about ourselves. And I think, you know, like I really have worked with a lot of women over the years, and I see that this story is universal. It doesn't matter like what country you come from or what culture you come from. I see this as a universal story that, you know, like, because those industries are global and they affect every woman in every part of the world. And, you know, like a few years ago, I worked with a group of fashion models, and, you know, like they looked like what our culture is saying the ideal beauty is. They look like the women in magazines. I mean, they are the women in the magazines. And they still had the same feelings and the same issues and the same feeling bad about their bodies and feeling bad about how they look and criticizing themselves and not liking themselves. So it's really got nothing to do with our looks. Absolutely nothing to do with how we look. It's got everything to do with everything that's get put into our heads from day one.
I love this so much, Rachel. I could listen to you for days. I think we can all relate to what you're saying, but, you know, I think we're so trained to focus on changing our behavior. Let's talk about dieting for a minute. That these feelings that you were trained, you know, that you were somehow not, it wasn't a mistake, or it wasn't what you learned was incorrect, that there was something wrong with you. You know, the diet industry preys on that and teaches us to just keep trying to make your body better. Keep trying to do something on the outside to fix what that feeling that we all have on the inside. Yeah. And, you know, this body shame, I'd like to hear more about your process of becoming aware that it was actually these thoughts that were keeping you stuck more than food. You know, because this shame is one of the greatest causes, you know, of overeating, because or a dysfunctional relationship with food. Because a dysfunctional relationship with food is always based on like trying to change how you feel inside. Yeah, right? Exactly. That we know, and that shame perpetuates that terrible feeling that we want to make go away. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I loved, and I know you've created things too. I loved putting the make peace with food in 5 days. I did put the link above here. It's just, and then she shines /challenge, but it's free, but it just helps women see how to shift their perception, how to start to become more aware. We have to start separating the facts from our own judgments about ourselves, right?
Exactly.
You're actually learning to be a learner. Yeah. It's like we're a scientist. When we're stuck, we need to start looking at it in a different way. Most of us have just been like, this feels terrible, I'll go on another diet.
Yeah.
And then we lose complete faith in ourselves, right? Yeah. Because we're trying to use tools that don't work to solve the underlying problem.
Exactly.
And it's when we address these messages and the non-truth of them, it's come to know the truth of our own unique beauty and the brilliance of these bodies. I always say, like, if we could write down or think about every day all that these brilliant vehicles do. This is a gift that we've been giving.
Yeah.
Drive our soul around, right? To communicate with other souls.
Yeah.
And to hold babies and to laugh and to dance and to write and to communicate and cook and all the things we do all day long.
And all the things that our body does inside that we don't even see, like all the way it functions for us and keeps us alive and breathes and our blood flows and our heart is working, like it's a miracle. Our bodies are miracles.
It's a
They're
miracle.
Amazing.
And we're trained to say, oh, my skin's not light enough.
Exactly.
Look at these stretch marks. I'm disgusting.
Yeah.
I don't look like I did 20 years ago. What's wrong with me? Why can't I figure this out? And we're so stuck in this shameful thinking, like you said so beautifully, of blaming ourselves.
Exactly.
That we somehow can't get it. And that keeps us, so to start to look at this whole situation, like I said, more of like a scientist, to uncover.
Yeah.
Like you did the work to uncover where those thoughts really came from. And when you know that, then you know how they need to be remedied.
Exactly.
Right tools. So
exactly. And I think the place where the diet industry puts its hooks on us is because, like all those stories that I told, all those things are the ways that we were hurt because we're female, like it has to do with our body, like it's the way. I'm not saying that men don't have their own struggles, and they do, but there's a particular way that all those things that happen to us as girls, as women, and that's why we associate it with our body. And we think like if
we associate our value with our body. Yes.
Yeah. And we associate those hurts with our body. You really think like, it's not that thing was wrong, it's that something is wrong with my body. And that's where the diet industry can hook us because it, like that's the message that it's trying to reinforce. And, like by the time I became a teenager and in my early 20s, I was in full-blown body hatred. Like I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. If I looked at myself in the mirror, I was just to, like tear myself to pieces. I didn't like anything about how I looked. It also spilled to how I felt about other women. When I met another woman, it was always to look at her in a critical way and to see her flaws and to see what's wrong with her and to see, like how she looks better than me and where she looks worse than me. And, like this was a constant thing, and
you project that on everything and
everything and everybody. And my relationship with food was so unhealthy, and it was really like like extreme. I would either diet or I would binge. Because I grew up in the health food industry, I would not buy a vegetable if it wasn't organic. But I would, eat pints of ice cream and bags of chips and, so it was a very, very unbalanced and unhealthy relationship that I had with food. And it's, it affected every area of my life. I was deeply, deeply unhappy. And it really spilled into every area of my life. And I constantly thought about food, and I constantly thought about how I looked. I had obsessive thoughts about doing plastic surgery. I remember when I was a teenager and I was lying in bed one time, and I remember like just fantasizing, taking a knife and cutting pieces of my body off. I was never I never did any self-harm or anything like that besides overeating, but I just remember that. I just remember like this like feeling of disgust with my body, that I wanted it off of me. But now that I look back on it with the understanding that I have now, what I wanted off of me is the messages that I got. I wanted them off of me. What was disgusting was what came at me, not me. But like when we're younger, we don't have this information and we don't have that understanding, and we constantly internalize everything and think that it's us. So like just like my journey to body hatred was like bit by bit, step by step, my journey back to body love, and I do see it as a journey back. I don't think this is something that we need to learn. I think we just need to unlearn the other stuff, because I think self-love and body love is who we naturally are. So when we unlearn the other things, this is what's naturally is. This is best. Yeah, this is what's left. Exactly.
I just love this. So, and oftentimes, and I think that you can probably attest the same thing when clients come to me and they want to heal their relationship with food. When I start talking to them about loving their bodies, they don't really see the huge connection.
Yeah.
To have, if we were, so we are in a relationship with these bodies. They're not who we are. They are what we have. They're not, but so it is a relationship between, like any other healthy relationship with, let's say, my husband.
Yeah.
If I loved him, if I was in a position to think he was disgusting and always want to change him, our relationship would be very unhealthy. It wouldn't go anywhere. The decisions that come naturally when you love somebody, the decisions that come naturally when you love your body, the decisions about what you eat, there's no more rule keeper really needed. There's no more tyrant. There's no more whip cracker. To be in a healthy relationship with your body and to be in a healthy relationship with food comes from extreme self-care, which comes from unconditional, all-accepting love.
Yeah.
And most women think, well, if I do that, I'm going to go totally off the rails. I'm going to be out of control. And it might happen for a little while, but it's so the opposite. It's such a natural place of self-care, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a huge piece. And some women just still believe that it's this tyrant, this rule keeper, this dieter, this crack in the whip is the only thing that's going to keep him on track, but it's actually the only thing that's keeping him off track.
Yeah.
Doing this coming back to this journey, like you said so beautifully, is the missing key, the golden key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like in my healing journey, I have to give credit to a lot of amazing women who did amazing work that, like helped me to see myself differently, see my body differently. But what you're saying, it really resonates with me. And I remember that one of the things that I did, part of my healing journey, I went to this support group in New York City where I live, and it was led by two women they actually wrote a book called Overcoming Overeating, which is not the same as Overeaters Anonymous. It's not a 12-step program, but it's really undoing the diet industry's messages. And I remember like learning from them first to trust myself with food. And for me, it was like, I can't trust myself with food. I'll go completely out of control. And they were like, anything that you think is a food that you will not have control, bring it into your house and bring it in big quantities into your house just to loosen that hold that it had on you. And I remember going to a bakery, and my weakness was tiramisu cake. And I went to this Italian bakery in my neighborhood, and I bought a huge cake, and I put it in the refrigerator, and I ate a slice, and the cake stayed there until it went bad. Mm-hmm. And I could not believe it. I could not believe that I did not eat it all at once, or that I didn't want to eat it every day. But once I didn't have that's forbidden food, or I shouldn't have it, or all those rules. Once I didn't have that, it didn't have this hold on me. Exactly. And all of a sudden I felt like it's not really calling me right now. So I
went through the same experience too with potato chips. And I do talk about this in the Make Peace with Food 5-day challenge. I invite people to go out and buy their trigger food.
Yeah.
And not just a single serving, because it's scientific studies have shown that when you allow all foods, you're less apt to overeat.
Exactly.
In your house and allow yourself to have it. I also teach that you've got to be completely mindful, eat in a very aware state, slow down. And it's amazing the shift that comes from that. Like you said, for me, it was chips. I probably have a bag that's gone stale now. Before my kids had to hide them. I would eat them in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I would find them and I would destroy the bag. But finally, like you said, giving people permission to do that to guide them through that is a huge turning point.
Yeah, that was a big breakthrough for me. Just I can trust myself with food. I'm not going to go crazy, So that was one thing that led me to healing. Another thing that led me to healing is, I started learning the Course in Miracles. I went to a class and it just, for me, that was like hearing something that speaks to what my heart always knew, but it was always covered up with all those feelings. So I did that, and other books that I've read, the work that I've done with myself, it was very, very slow. And practicing body love is something that I still do every day. And when I started practicing body love, it felt very silly and stupid and strange and weird. But I did it just because I wanted something different, just because I didn't want to live in this pain anymore. And I remember after a while of doing all those different modalities of healing, I just remember walking down the streets in New York, and all of a sudden I was feeling like, how did everybody become so beautiful all of a sudden?
Me too. I said
I was just look at every woman and she looks amazing and beautiful.
Everyone.
And not just,
Again, I know my daughter calls this argue-greeing when we're both so excited. But, just like how we project our reality onto every other person, just like you explained so beautifully before. You look at women like all their flaws, the way that you looked at yourself.
Yeah,
either better than you or worse than you, and now that's a true sign of healing. Your relationship with yourself is to look out, and everybody is beautiful.
Radiant, they're full of light and beautiful and gorgeous and amazing. Yeah.
When did this happen?
Yeah.
I really thought something changed. I was like, when did this happen? People are more beautiful than they used to be. No, they're not.
They were always beautiful. We could not see that.
We were always beautiful.
Yeah, and we were always beautiful. We just could not see that. Exactly.
Oh, I have the chills. And what other thing you're displaying and saying so beautiful, when we talk about healing our relationship with food or with our bodies, food is never going to change. Food's always going to be there. Always. So you're always going to have access to all kinds of food.
Yeah, we can't quit eating.
No. There's nothing about food that's going to change. There's nothing about a specific diet. Whatever rule you might take on this week or next week, we have keto and all these great things that I don't knock those things. That might be a comfortable way for you to eat once you really listen to your body. But all these different food and diets and rules and laws, it's always going to keep changing. It's always going to be there. The job of actually healing this is the journey that the inner journey, the one that took you from judging everybody else, judging yourself, to how did everyone get so beautiful?
Exactly. And also then you start to eat from the inside out. You start to listen to your body, because your body knows. Our bodies are so smart. Our bodies are so amazing. They know what they need. And there are no rules that are good for everybody. And there are no rules that are good for us, because maybe what I ate last week was what my body needed last week. And this week I need something different. So when you really start to, stop going to war with your body and become friend with your body and learn to love and appreciate your body, you start to listen to it. And your body talks to you. It doesn't talk in English, but it talks in symptoms and in sensations, and really gives you, once you start listening, it really gives you clear messages to what you need. And it's an amazing relationship, and it's a relationship that will last for as long as you are alive in this body. So it's you know, how do you want to live? Do you want to live constantly at war with yourself, or do you want to live with, you know, like being joyful and happy and love who you are and what you look like, you know? So I think, yeah.
We're never going to lie on our deathbed and think, I wish my body had looked better. Ever. It's not going to happen to anybody. We're going to wish we showed up fully, that we loved ourselves. You know, your journey and anyone's journey back to self-love, as you can see it, opened the space for you to love everybody more fully. For you to show up, as you said, it affected everything in your life.
Yes.
And being loving is going to affect everything in your life so much more profoundly that if you were ever able to get to that, whatever, 36, 24, 36, then you'd always be fearful of losing, because you do, you know, and chasing. And, you know, how do you want to show up? How do you want to live out the rest of time? And, you know, you also talked about body intelligence and how you looked in the mirror, how you saw yourself when you were 4. And at that time, also, I could bet if they had you up at the table or in a high chair and they fed you food, they had all these choices, you'd probably eat some, and you knew when you were done, you're done. You probably with your food, thrown it on the floor. You still knew how to listen before all those bricks, like you so beautifully said, just started to twist this whole relationship with our bodies and with food.
Yep.
Incredible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I love that you are sharing this message. I get your emails. You are healthnutgirl.com.
Yes.
Your programs. Also.
Yes, I have. I lead women health circles. I work with women in small groups, and they do amazing work in really everything that we talked about. You know, so it includes nutrition and healthy rituals and healthy practices and healthy relationship with ourselves and learning how to love ourselves. And I think one message that I want to give women before we close is that, you know, like, it's okay to be where you are. Yes. It's okay to be where you are. I think a lot of women come to this work from a place of self-criticism, and that's okay. You know, that's what gets you in the door. That's fine. You know, but it needs, you know, like, you need to start practicing. And I still practice body love every day, you know, like, and it's something that you can do, you know, like, just look at what are your thoughts when you look in the mirror, you know, like, when you feel bad about yourself. If you had a child that felt bad about themselves, you would hug them, you know, so give yourself a hug.
Cupcake and tell them to go get yourself a
give yourself a hug, you know, like, give yourself a kiss. When you see your reflection in the mirror, blow yourself a kiss. You know, like, it might sound like silly, but when you start acting in an affectionate way towards yourself, something inside you changes. You know, like, love changes us. It changes us, ourselves. It changes who we are, and you're going to start showing up in a different way in the world. So it's okay to be where you are and just start taking those steps. You know, like, I didn't go from a 4-year-old girl to a 5-year-old girl that hates herself. It took years, and I didn't stop hating myself in one day. It took also years, you know, like, just be on that journey. Start that journey, take another step, and take another step.
And it is the most important journey you will ever take.
And the most joyful journey. The most joyful. Yeah.
It's so much easier than the self-critical journey we've
yes.
talked about. It is much more joyful and much more fun and much more easy to remind yourself to kiss yourself, to look in the mirror and say, "You're beautiful. I love you. I'm going to show up for you today. I am going to listen to you today because I love you."
Yeah.
So hard for some women, but that's okay. You know, we can get there. And I'm thrilled that there are people like us popping up all over the world.
Yeah.
I feel like this change is happening fast because
things are changing, and I see more and more women open to that idea. I see the women that I work with are much less resistant than they used to be. There's a movement there, and we need to keep doing this work.
And it is never about perfection. It's just a woman determined to rise is the most powerful force in the world, the most powerful force for our families. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to know, we just have to rise up against all these self-judgments and self-criticism. And then everything else, actually, there's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Everything else on the outside starts to heal.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I hope to work and talk with you more.
Me too.
I could hang out here with you for like 2 hours. Like,
yeah, and if you come to New York City, you got to call me. We got to meet up.
Promise. I promise. So if you want to learn more about Rachel Kieffer, and it's healthnutgirl.com.
Yes.
She has different programs, different healing techniques, and she's been doing this for a long time. You could also go to and then she shines.com. We have different courses. You can start off with it's free just to kind of experiment with these ideas, make peace with food, a 5-day intensive. It's just, and then she shines.com/challenge. And between the two of us, we got it all covered. No, we're on this journey too.
Yeah, we are. And it's a lifelong journey, but it's a wonderful, joyful journey.
It is. And I feel like I was put on this earth to support women back to this love. And I can feel it in my bones. You did too. When I told people about you, they're like, it sounds like you're talking about yourself. That's the greatest compliment in the world.
Yeah.
You are such a light, and your message is so heartfelt and inspiring and real and relatable and helpful, truly helpful.
Thank you so much.
And I love what you're doing. And if there's anything I can ever do to support you, and then She Shines can do to support you and promote you, you please let us know.
Great. That's so great. I'm going to have a summer challenge for mindful eating, so I'll let you know the details as soon as I have.
I'll share it with our entire group.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay. Keep up the good work.
So great to be here with you.
I love you, Rachel.
Love you too. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.